This is DuPont Circle Station, the main station on the Washington, D.C. Metro. The D.C. Metro opened in 1976 and now has a total length of 208 kilometers, about 130 miles. DuPont Circle is located a little north of D.C. City Center. It literally sits on top of a circular intersection and plaza, where a total of 10 roads converge. There are also many bus routes that supplement the subway, making it a key transportation hub. The DC Metro is located deep, even in places where it does not intersect with other lines. The station area is often dug down from above ground, but this is not possible at this depth, so a mountain tunneling method is used as the base construction method. Let's exit the ticket gate and head above ground. There is even an incredibly long escalator to get from the ticket gate above the platform to ground level. The lighting next to the escalator is indirect, with a linear light between it and the wall. Due to the terrain, some stations are even deeper, and the escalator at this station is 70 meters long. It's said to be the longest in the Western Hemisphere. A distinctive feature of the DC Metro is its simple, unadorned appearance. Let's go above ground and take a look at DuPont Circle. Where roads form a loop, there are intersections without traffic lights called roundabouts. But this is not the case at the center where 10 roads converge, and there are traffic lights. There is also a crosswalk on the central island for pedestrians. And next to the road, there is a rather suspicious space. The plywood underneath the wire mesh has collapsed. There are other similar structures. Here, there is no plywood, and you can see the stairs. It's difficult to see inside, but the size is similar, and the fact that there are walls and handrails on only 3 sides indicates that it is a staircase leading underground. This one looks a little different from the others. The reddish-brown wire mesh has rails attached, and there are casters at the entrance to the stairs. It appears that the entrance can be opened by sliding the wire mesh along the casters, allowing access. There are traces of ground filling next to it. These appear to be where a signed support pole used to be filled in. These were once entrances to the underground railway facilities. A main road runs from northwest to southeast beneath DuPont Circle. Of the surrounding roads, this is the only one that does not pass above ground. And this road is inextricably linked to the railway facilities that once stood here. The entrance on the north side of DuPont Circle looks different from the others. The concrete and fence are bright red, and there is a lamp next to it. Also, the sign seen at the beginning of this cut says DuPont Underground, not DuPont Circle. The wire mesh is open, allowing access underground. There is a sign at the entrance. On this day, an event was being held from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., with admission costing $5. Not only the outside entrance, but the inside wall is painted red as well. The handrail on the left appears to have been added later, and there also appears to be a wheelchair lift. There is a glass door at the bottom. This, of course, was also added later. The interior is curved, and the rails remain on the inside of the curve. This is the site of the streetcar station, which was in use until 1962.
Here is a floor plan of DuPont Circle. This underground station was a facility for the streetcars that ran along the boulevard. The streetcars go underground southeast of the circle, and the inbound and outbound lines are separated. This is to allow for an underpass under the boulevard to pass between them. The inbound and outbound lines pass on the west and east sides of the circle, with the platforms on the curve.
After leaving the circle, tracks continue underground for a while, and then emerge above ground when the underpass under the boulevard ends.
Because the boulevard underpass continues for a while on the northwest side of the circle, the underground streetcar section is also longer on that side. The streetcar line opened in DuPont Circle in 1930. At the time, both the inbound and outbound lines made a semicircle around the west side of the circle. However, as this is one of the busiest intersections in the city center, competition with cars and other vehicles increased. Due to serious congestion, the streetcar line was moved underground in 1948. At the same time, an underpass under the boulevard was also opened. The station has 5 entrances on the west side and 4 on the east side, allowing widespread access from around the circle. While this was a fairly advanced facility for its time, the single entrance was not enough to change the situation where the streetcar line was seen as a nuisance, as it contributed to congestion. DC streetcars were completely phased out in 1962, and the DuPont Circle Underground Station also ceased operation the same year. In parallel with the decline of the streetcar system, the development of a highway network was considered in the 1950s. In 1956, the government enacted a law supporting highway construction and began investing huge amounts of money in the construction of interstate highways. DC also made plans to build a large-scale highway network.
However, this plan faced some of the strongest resistance in the United States at the time. The proposed route threatened to divide and destroy historically and scenically important neighborhoods, and would require the evacuation of many residents, particularly the poor. In the early 1960s, plans for building a subway to replace the existing streetcar network took shape, and each line began opening in stages from 1976 onwards. The subway system beneath DuPont Circle Station is structurally independent from the streetcar system. The streetcar facilities overlapped with road underpasses, and the tunnel was small and had sharp curves, making it impractical to use it for a subway with a length of 23 meters, about 75 feet per car. Subsequently, plans were made to convert the former streetcar station into a food court, but ultimately it settled on the current DuPont Underground. The underground structure is divided into 4 main sections. The Northwest Tunnel is approximately 2,800 square meters, about 30,000 square feet. The East and West Tunnel tunnels are approximately 1,400 square meters, about 15,000 square feet each, and the Southeast Tunnel is 1,400 square meters. It is only part of the eastern section that is used as DuPont Underground. DuPont Underground is a venue for art exhibitions and concerts. Around 2014, a local nonprofit organization leased the space and began a project to revitalize it as DuPont Underground. It has been renovated into a gallery, while retaining some of the streetcar facilities such as the rails and platform. In addition to a wheelchair lift at the entrance, what appears to be sprinkler systems have also been added to the ceiling, showing that a considerable amount of investment has been made. The vast, desolate underground space is popular for its unique atmosphere. The trenches between the rails are used to collect electricity.
DC Streetcars used an unusual system known as an underground trench collection system. Power rails were placed in the trenches between the tracks, and electricity was collected by current collectors extending from the underside of the cars. This system was adopted to preserve the landscape. In 1889, Congress banned the installation of overhead lines in urban areas, so this system was adopted to electrify streetcars. However, this system was costly to build and maintain and prone to malfunctions. Some suburban sections switched to a standard overhead line system, and some cars were equipped with trolley poles compatible with overhead lines. Incidentally, there are places on DC streetcars where the remains of the tracks still remain. Perhaps this is because removing cobblestone tracks is costly, and this is even more noticeable with an underground trench collection system. This underground trench collection system has also influenced another streetcar I'll introduce today. The park within DuPont Circle is managed by the National Park Service. There is a fountain in the center, making it a popular place for people to relax. In the United States, squirrels are released into the center of big cities, where they become wild and integrated into daily life. The DuPont Circle Underground Station was only in use for 14 years, from 1948 to 1962. While groundbreaking in itself, it meant competing with cars in many places on the entire network, which made traffic congestion unavoidable. This shows that even innovative facilities do not necessarily last for long, and in some cases can be short-lived.
Let's take the DC Metro from DuPont Circle to Union Station. It connects with Amtrak, which operates suburban rail. The station faces south, with a spacious cityscape spreading out in front of it. The White House and the United States Capitol are located southwest of Union Station. The area is lush with greenery, setting it apart from densely built-up areas like the DuPont Circle area. These geographical characteristics are also relevant to this story. The other streetcar stop I'll introduce today is located on the north side of Union Station, opposite the main entrance. It's called the DC Streetcar.
This line, characterized by its new-looking vehicles, began operation in February 2016. It's not even 10 years old yet. I'll continue along the side of the bus terminal northwest of the station. You can go between the subway and Amtrak stations without going outside, but the DC Streetcar is different. It has no roof, so you'll get wet if it rains, and there are no signs in some places, so it's easy to get lost. The number of people walking around clearly decreases, and you start to wonder if you're really on the right path. The DC Streetcar's Union Station is located north of the station, on a bridge over the Amtrak tracks. The platform is located near the middle of the bridge, so even after crossing the streetcar, there's still a fair bit of walking to do. The transfer route from the subway is about 500 meters, about 1,600 feet, but it's not exactly easy to find, as it goes up and down and winds a lot. I missed the stopped train, so I waited for the next one. Trains run every 12 minutes. The same applies to morning rush hour and other times. Operating hours vary depending on the day of the week, with the longest on Fridays from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m., and the shortest on Sundays from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Despite Union Station connecting to the subway and Amtrak, there were few passengers, and it felt deserted, even though the train had just departed. The DC Streetcar line extends east from Union Station for about 3.5 kilometers, about 2.2 miles. There is also a black dashed line on the right, which indicates a planned extension of approximately 3 kilometers, about 1.9 miles. Although the current terminus is not connected to the subway, if the line is extended, both ends will be connected to the subway. There were also plans to extend it westward, connecting to the city center and other areas. Union Station has one platform and one track to make it easier for trains to turn around. This is, of course, a temporary structure, and the intention is that when the line is extended westward in the future, the tracks will be relayed on both sides of the road, as on the east side. There is a point where the track moves from the edge of the road to the center, making it easier to relocate the track. However, neither the extension to the west nor the extension to the east, which was shown on the route map, will be realized. Let's take a look at the carriages and the line to unravel why this happened. The carriages are 20 meters long, about 66 feet. They are 3 articulated cars, with the middle car having no bogies. It has a so-called floating structure, where the middle car is supported by the cars on either side. Reducing the number of bogies simplifies the mechanism, and the lack of protruding wheels allows for greater freedom in the interior layout. There are 2 doors on each side of the center car, leaving more standing space around the doors, making it easier to board.
And the DC Streetcar is free to ride. In the 9 years since it opened, the DC Streetcar has never charged a fee. The doors close automatically after a certain amount of time has passed. Only the center car is low floor, with stairs between the cars on both sides. Making the entire train low floor would be costly, so separating the low floor sections from the rest is a rational approach. The seats are cross seats that face either the direction of travel or the opposite, and the higher floor cars at both ends offer good views. The driver's cab has large windows, so it looks easy to drive. The train departs. After the bridge over the Amtrak tracks, shops line the street, making it even more lively than the platform at Union Station. This commercial area was a major factor in the establishment of the DC Streetcar here. The commercial area along the street had been economically stagnant for a while, so it was hoped that the streetcar would play a role in revitalizing the area. The idea was that the streetcar would increase property values and attract new businesses. Another goal was to encourage a shift from automobile transportation to clean, emission-free electric transportation. It was positioned as a symbol of DC's vision of becoming a sustainable city. Another goal was to add a more convenient and flexible option to DC's public transportation network, which relies on buses and subways. The streetcar was chosen to improve convenience for short distance and local travel in particular. The budget invested was approximately $200 million. The train was empty, even though it was 5 p.m. on a weekday, and there were plenty of spare seats. The train going in the opposite direction was the same, with few passengers in either direction. It doesn't seem like a location that would be unable to attract passengers, but some shops along the line still have their shutters down.
The tracks move to the center of the road halfway through, allowing the train to pick up speed. There is also a train depot just before the terminus. There are 6 trains in total. The journey to the terminus takes about 20 minutes. It takes longer than expected because the track runs on the same path as the road, and there seems to be no signal control to give priority to the streetcar. Unlike Union Station, this station has 2 tracks. Rather than turning back directly at the platform, trains are sent back to the end of the platform before turning back. The tracks continue to just before the bridge away from the station, where they merge. To make it easy to extend the tracks further, the 2 tracks continue straight, with a turning line between them. It appears that preparatory work for an extension is being carried out, but the tracks end there. The initial section to open is 3.5 kilometers, about 2.17 miles. Even adding the 3 kilometers, about 1.86 miles from here to the subway station, the total is 6.5 kilometers, about 4.04 miles, which is still a short distance to develop in one go. The station is on the west side of the river and is surrounded by parks and golf courses, so activity is limited. There are 2 main reasons why the line ends at this station. First, there is the cost of crossing the river further. This would have required either renovating the existing bridge or building a new one, which would have been a huge additional cost. Second, there are political reasons. As construction took time and public expectations waned, the authorities prioritized fulfilling their promise to begin operation as soon as possible. As a result, they only carved out a 3.5 kilometers, about 2.17 miles, section that presented relatively few cost and technical issues, and began operation in an awkward location.
Although it made headlines when it first opened as the first streetcar in 54 years, the DC Streetcar faced difficulties from the start. First of all, the opening itself was significantly delayed. Originally scheduled to open in 2013, construction and technical issues made it difficult to obtain safety certification. Safety certification usually takes 60 to 80 days, but in reality, it took years. One of the reasons for this was this vehicle. Although it looks ordinary, it is designed to be able to collect electricity without using overhead lines when it is extended to the city center in the future. Plans called for underground trench current collection and battery operation, and these unique requirements complicated the vehicle design, resulting in technical and cost issues. Furthermore, DC Transit Authority's project management faced growing criticism, with repeated changes in management further exacerbating the confusion. The DC Streetcar project exceeded its original budget, making it difficult to gain public support for funding the construction of extension sections. The DC Streetcar's true value would only be realized once a network connecting the city's major areas was completed. However, a combination of factors prevented progress from being made in extending the line, and the 3.5 kilometers, about 2.17 miles, route, with poor connections to other modes of transportation, was inconvenient. As seen from the train window, most of the line was shared track, and delays were prone to congestion and parked vehicles. Although it was the first streetcar service in 54 years, it faced the same challenges as the streetcars that had previously been discontinued. This poor performance actually contributed to the fact that fares remained free.
The DC streetcar was positioned not just as a means of transportation, but as a public investment to revitalize the local economy. The fare was free to make it easy for residents to use. Furthermore, there are many low-income residents along the line, so making it free was in line with the city's policy of ensuring transportation equity. Initially, there were plans to charge for fare after a temporary free period, but this never came to fruition. The authorities were forced to continue the free service, fearing that if they had introduced a fee, ridership would have decreased even further and the failure of the project would have become clear. It also appears that they decided that the costs of introducing and maintaining a fare collection system were not worth the expected revenue. Without fare revenue, the annual operating costs of $10 million had to be covered entirely by taxpayers' money. This huge outlay made it difficult to continue the DC streetcar. Meanwhile, an extension to the city center never materialized. Construction costs are higher in the city center than in the suburbs due to heavy traffic and the presence of underground power lines, water pipes, and subway tunnels. With even the initial section not being a success, there's no way to cover these costs. Furthermore, extending the line into the city center created political and social friction beyond simple traffic issues.
Residents in the city center and west of the extension, which passes through the extension section, were concerned about the impact of construction on congestion and other issues. Furthermore, as the city center would connect to areas with a large low-income population, there was apparently resistance to these people moving into the city center.
Officials began to allocate their budget and effort to improving subway and bus service rather than the problematic DC streetcar. In 2020, the spread of the pandemic caused a sharp drop in the number of people using the city's transportation. Demand for commuting did not recover even after that, and ridership did not return to pre-pandemic levels. As the city's financial review unfolded, criticism of the DC streetcar, which had few ridership and required huge amounts of taxpayer money, resurfaced, and calls for its abolition began to gain momentum. In May 2025, the mayor included a policy in his budget proposal not to renew the streetcar's operating contract until July 2027, effectively announcing the abolition of the DC streetcar. In October, based on the mayor's policy, it was decided that the service would end at the end of March 2026. Starting January 4, 2026, Sunday service will be discontinued, and operating hours will be shortened in preparation for the abolition. The frequency of service will also be reduced from 12 to 20 minutes, effectively marking the final stage of the plan. On the official website, a pop-up will appear announcing the end of service at the end of March. While replacement with electric buses was initially considered, it is likely that the service will ultimately be replaced with regular buses. The vehicles will remain owned by the city even after their end of service, so they will not be immediately dismantled. Of course, storage also incurs costs. The authorities are looking for a buyer, but there is no clear timeline in sight. Streetcar cars in the United States are typically several tens of meters long. Each city introduces cars tailored to their circumstances, such as San Francisco, where some cars are equipped with a mechanism that allows the car floor to step out as the platform height changes. It is highly doubtful whether anyone will take the DC streetcar cars, which cannot carry many passengers despite their unique specifications. In Japan, a brand new LRT opened in Utsunomiya in 2023, and there is a growing movement worldwide to reconsider streetcars. Meanwhile, the end of DC streetcar operations highlights the difficulties of large-scale projects like streetcars and the challenges each city faces. Thank you for watching.